He has spent his entire life making the events industry better. He took many of them to the next level, including the Vancouver's World Fair, the Skagit Valley Tulip Festival, Brewstock, the Great Northwest Brewery Invitational before anyone had even heard of microbrews, Earth Day, and Seafair. Please welcome and recognize a pioneer in the festivals and events industry, Alan Silverman.
Well, what a nice group. I have a dilemma, and the dilemma is that before I got up here, the week before, and earlier today, they impressed upon me that I have 3 to 5 minutes. So my dilemma is, I could do that and give all my platitudes and say thank you and sit down and we've had a nice day. Or I could tell you a story about how the bite first got started. Which do you want to hear? Bruce, I'm sorry.
Can I get a chair?
Yeah. The Bite of Seattle was born not out of a creative idea as much out of necessity. In 1982, I had a restaurant called Barnaby's in Victoria. I and my fellow restaurant owners were seeing reduced customer counts due to severe recession. Interest rates were at 23%, and the public was not dining out. So at a meeting of local restaurant owners to discuss what we could do about it, I told them about an event that was held in Chicago the year before, called the Taste of Chicago. And after some discussion, the group agreed that it would produce an event. They would participate if I would do it. In other words, it would be my responsibility. Now, for those of you sitting out there in the festival business, digest the timing of this decision. This was mid-April of 1982, and we wanted the driest weekend of the year, the third weekend in July, just 3 months away. I selected Green Lake as the site, but found out there was a softball tournament already scheduled on the field surrounding the Evans Pool. The Seattle Parks Department said no way. So I called Mayor Charles Royer, and I told him the restaurant industry needed help. He instructed Parks to work it out with me. They grudgingly gave us this 12-foot wide path that leads from Green Lake Way to the lake. We were now ready to put our plan into action, and little did I know what I was getting into. I had already told the restaurants what their fee would be. I took a guess. I had no budget. I was finding out what a tent cost, what electrical outlets cost, where to set up a 3-compartment sink. I did not know enough to rent radios. I never did. No communication between me and my staff unless we ran into one another. I called the owner of the garbage company, Grabanco at the time, and asked their advice on trash. They said they would provide a few 4-yard dumpsters and have a garbage truck on grounds to compact it all. And all I had to do was rolled the 4-yarders to the garbage truck. I hired my daughter and some of her college friends to push the containers to the garbage truck. Have you ever tried to push a garbage-loaded 4-yard dumpster on grass? Not easy. I went down to the Department of Health and asked their advice what I needed to do. They said, cover everything with saran wrap. I said, wow, that was easy. I never went to the fire department because I did not know I needed to. But more on that later. Virginia Swanson was my contact in the Parks Department that first year. She and I made all the plans and decisions for the event. Virginia said she would handle the police because if I did, they might take advantage of me. Fancy that. My only regret in those early years is that I could not take Virginia with me when we moved to Seattle Center. Later on, Virginia went on to chair the special event committee for the city of Seattle. When we organized the second bite in '83, there were 4 representatives for the city: health, fire, police, and Virginia. In 1984, the organizing committee involved 15 people from various city and county departments, including the ASPCA. I knew I had finally arrived at the epicenter of special events when I drew the attention of the dog catcher. Well, I turned the page here a minute. These fingers don't work like they used to. Okay. The first bite was just 2 days, Saturday and Sunday. We had anticipated perhaps 25,000 people would show up over the 2 days. Instead, we ended up close to 75,000. The proximity to the softball tournament caused us to station outfielders next to the barbecues to protect them from getting hit. The press exposure was beyond my belief. It was fantastic. We were on the front cover of the Seattle Times Weekend Magazine section on Friday, then a banner across the top of the Saturday Times, and then pictures and a story on the front page of the Sunday Times. No social media, we were the talk of the town. There were 28 restaurants in the first bite. They were lined up on both sides of that narrow path. In fact, opposite lines intermingled in the middle of the path so that you were not sure which line you were in. You could only shuffle down the path. The restaurants were constantly sending couriers to their stores because they were running out of food. As the restaurant owners who came down on Saturday afternoon in their alligator shoes and gabardine slacks, they soon found out they had to go to work, rolled up their sleeves, and you saw them pitching in to help their staff keep up. Remember now I mentioned I never applied for a fire permit. Well, the fire chief found out about our event and instructed his fire marshal to cut short his weekend in Yakima and get down to Green Lake. On Sunday, I heard about this and his threatening to shut us down. I instructed my staff to make sure the fire marshal did not find me until 3 p.m. that afternoon. When he did, he let loose a 20-minute tongue lashing without me being able to get in a single word. He claimed I had enough propane in the park to blow up half of Seattle. His name was Tony, I believe it was Tony. Andreas, is he still here, our fire marshal?
Yeah.
Or maybe he
I think
left.
it was Nelson, Steve Nelson.
But anyway, he and I became good friends, and over the next couple of years, we wrote many of the rules for special events. I lost $18,000 on the first bite. And because I was determined to succeed, stupid, we expanded over the entire field of Green Lake the next year, and now we had radios. We also had 50 vendors. I convinced John Schwartz of Schwartz Brothers to set up a grand piano, like he had in Daniels, in the middle of his tent. The pianist was dressed in a tuxedo, and it still was 90 degrees. Red Robin built a special electric sign to front his booth. One restaurant set up blenders in the back of his tent to make virgin daiquiris, and he burned up 4 blenders over the weekend. It was wild. People were buying like they were never going to have another meal. However, all was not smooth sailing, and in 1984, still at Green Lake, it was a hot weekend. The vendors were adding more and more equipment, refrigeration, lighting, and on Saturday afternoon, we blew up 2 transformers on a utility pole. We had shut down a whole section of the Green Lake area. Fortunately, City Light was on the ball, and with 3 hours, they replaced the transformers. And I happened to notice that all the guys on the truck were there for like 4 hours later, eating. Amazing. They were terrific. We dodged the bullet. One of my greatest enjoyments of those early days of the bite was in that second year when I climbed up on the single entertainment stage we had. Our featured closing act was an up-and-coming band called the Convertibles. From the height of the stage, located at the furthest end of the field, looking toward the lake, you could only see the heads of what was a multiple of thousands upon thousands of people. No one sat. There was no room. You would be trampled. As I surveyed the crowd, the thrill I got from knowing that I brought all these people to this place hooked me. I also realized, looking over the field, that our garbage was getting out of hand. We could not find the 4-yard dumpsters because they were surrounded and buried with garbage bags already full. As the band was preparing to play its encore number, I grabbed the mic and asked the audience to take the garbage can liners that I had my staff giving out and help clean up the grounds around themselves after the show. The result was astounding. It was hard to find a cigarette butt when they all left. The second bite was more successful. We only lost $8,000. The bite was ordered to move to Seattle Center in 1986. We left many memories at Green Lake, including 2 miles of gas pipe that I buried in the ground and is still there. But the continued success of festivals and the Bite of Seattle is the hard work and creativity of my daughter, Jody May, and her partner, Brett Gorell. Would you please stand, please? And it was Jody who cut her teeth by pushing around those 4-yard containers. Sitting next to Jody is my other daughter, Marnie, who, with her husband, had successfully led the Coffee Fest trade show until we sold it 2 years ago. Marnie. I want to congratulate Robert Nellums and Beth Knox for their awards, both well deserved. A very much appreciated award from this WFEA. Bruce, you guys do a great job. Thank you again. And over the years, he helped produce all these wonderful events that all of you put together and bring great pleasure to the state of Washington. I also have to acknowledge, where is it? Right here. Now, I have to confess, I did not know that they were a sponsor of this event, but I was given a memento that I think few of you have, and that's this. If there is any advice I can leave you with, it is this. Strive for unreachable goals. You may actually hit a few. Don't shortchange your events, and invest with more, not less. Thank you.
I approached several people this morning and tried to get them to bet me that Al Silverman would adhere to the 3 to 5 minute time frame. And I couldn't get anybody to take me up on it. Then I went to 10 minutes and they still wouldn't take me up on it. But what a great story. Thanks very much, Al.